I built a fully automated system that will qualify all of your leads in the DMs for you so you can just wake up to booked calls. Inside our platform, we call it the automated messenger system, and this will literally qualify your leads in the DMs. Now, the cool thing with this is naturally you're going to want to qualify leads on different platforms: Facebook, Instagram, SMS, and even WhatsApp. And we've actually built it on all of those platforms for you. Now, you see, driving leads to message you keywords is great, but it's pointless if it doesn't actually lead to any booked appointments in your calendar. Speaking to people isn't going to make you money unless they become a paying client. The automation starts off with numerous different triggers, essentially when people comment and DM certain words. It then splits off based off if they comment and DM, and if they comment, we reply to their comment with a variation of numerous different comments so it doesn't look robotic, and then we flow straight in to the DM conversation. For example, here in the respond to comment, we can add numerous different responses so that we don't look robotic and leads don't think that we're just running an automated system. The platform will then just randomly choose one of the variations so it looks different every single time. Now, the whole goal of any system is to be able to run it at scale, which is why we update everyone in a pipeline so you can see exactly where each lead is throughout that sales process. We then tag them as well, because if you're not tagging leads, you don't understand where leads have come from. Now we're ready to send them a DM, and we send them a DM thanking them for reaching out, and we ask what their main goal is. This allows us to give hyper-personalized lead magnets and free resources based on their exact goal. What we then want to do is we want to wait until they reply, or 1 hour, so we can then follow up if they haven't got back to us after an hour. Now, here is where the automation starts to grow. We then have a system where we filter if they haven't replied and if they have replied. If they haven't replied, we then have a series of follow-ups that go out to them to essentially restart that conversation. You can then focus on putting traffic into this and not having to worry about leads dropping off. For example, we can then follow up to their message saying, just checking in case my previous message got missed so that I can send across the most valuable training for you. I wonder what the main goal is that you're working towards. This can then be super personalized in order to capture their main goals. So one, we get more perspective on what they're trying to achieve, and we can then make our marketing even more specific after that. But then two, we can actually automate a specific resource to them so they have far more chance of being nurtured. We then want to wait until they reply, and what we then want to do is we want to go back to them, making them understand that this is one of the most common struggles that people tend to face, and that you have a lead magnet that will essentially solve the outcome that they're asking to achieve. Once again, we then want to wait until they reply or wait 1 hour. If they haven't replied after 1 hour, they'll come down here and we can follow up accordingly. If they do reply, they'll come down here and we can then send the appropriate follow-up. We don't want leads to drop off at any point throughout that process. We want essentially a rigid process that you can just focus on putting traffic into. So again, if they haven't replied to us, we then drop a little simple follow-up to them that can be personalized, just bumping up the conversation so we can capture their email in return for giving them the free resource. Big thing here is we want to use social media to nurture leads, capture email, build up a database so we can market them off the platform, and then we're not reliant on that platform forever. What we then do is we essentially have a filter set up to wait until they send us their email. So we wait until they reply, we then check if they have an email. If they do have an email, we then go down here and we send the appropriate follow-up. We capture an email in return for giving them their resource. What we then want to do is we want to then thank them for their email, drop the resource link in as well, and we can even automate an email to them as well. And then we want to ask them another question to keep the conversation going. For example, what their main struggle is achieving their goal. Now, throughout this process, we can ask additional questions, slowly qualifying the lead, getting them to the point of ultimately booking in a call. Now, what we can then do once we feel we've asked enough questions, we can then propose the ability for jumping on a call, because it's hard to essentially give them a strategy and give them help on a back and forth conversation. So we can propose jumping on a strategy call to help them even more. Now, this is where AI comes into play, and it's really cool. We then wait until they reply, and then we use AI to essentially gather if their reply is positive or negative. If it's positive, that's where we then send them a booking link to book in for a call. But if it's negative, we then obviously don't want to propose a call. We want to propose something else. Ultimately, if they've responded negatively, either they're a poor quality lead, you're not aligned with their values and your program doesn't suit them, or alternatively, they just haven't felt that you're an authority figure enough yet. So what we want to do is we just want to drop a message in and we want to say, no worries, keep me posted with how you find the free resources I sent across earlier. What we can then do is we can then give them time to essentially work through those free resources. We can then drop a follow-up in a day's time and we can then resurface that conversation. And by that point, they'll potentially be a little bit more nurtured. But here's the cool thing, because we capture their email earlier, they're in our email list, so we can constantly remarket to them down the line. They don't sign up now, it doesn't mean that they won't sign up down the line. You just need a system in order to do that. But here's where we can use AI even more, and when we send them our booking link, we can wait until they reply. We can then essentially assess how they reply to being sent the booking link, and if they sent positively, we can then move them along a pipeline so you know that you have a lead that's replied positively in the DMs about having a call, so you can essentially just make sure that that lead is moved into a call. You can make sure that you're closing that prospect and you then just get a little bit of context on the conversation before the call. Whereas if they reply negatively, we're not then going to keep following up even more around that. This is where essentially an AI setter would jump in or a human would jump in to essentially just propose what's going on and then move that conversation forwards and handle the objections.